Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda Rose, and if you are new to my channel, I am a high school teacher in Brooklyn, New York. And if you are returning, hey, welcome back, because today we're going to be talking about my week 2 experiences with remote teaching. What have I learned? What are we adjusting as a school individually? And then also all of the changes that New York State has been making that has just forced our school to adjust a lot of things as well. So that's what I'm going to be informing you guys on today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also I will link in the description my first video. So how exactly I'm doing remote learning, I'll link that below, and then you can see that so that a lot more of the information in this video will make sense. So let's get straight into this week 2 of remote teaching, all of the updates, and how I'm feeling about it. Okay, so the first thing I want to discuss is the 3 different programs that my school was using, because in my first video I told you that we will be using Edgenuity, Google Classroom, and Zoom. Now here's the thing, one of those things will no longer be happening. I will still be using Edgenuity and Google Classroom, but unfortunately we will not be using Zoom. So New York State or maybe New York City schools have been told that they are prohibited from using Zoom. And so we are just being told, don't use it. There's some privacy issues when it comes to student information. And then also there were so many posts and articles being made about like students like drawing inappropriate images on like teachers' photos or putting like inappropriate sounds in the background of the teacher. And so there's just like a lot of, kids being kids, I guess, but in order to protect teachers, students, and also to make sure that it stays an effective learning environment, we have been told you are not allowed to use Zoom. So there goes that as far as video conferencing in a sense with my students. Faculty and staff are still able to use Zoom. Teachers are just not allowed to do that with students. And so in this article that I read, they have provided alternatives. We are allowed to use Microsoft Teams, and we are allowed to use like Google Hangs, but Zoom specifically is not allowed, which goes down the drain. But also we need to follow the rules, and if that's what New York is saying, then that's what we have to do. But I don't know if that is the sentiment around the country. So if you are watching from another state, can you actually take a moment and comment down below? And are you allowed to use Zoom in the state that you're from, or maybe in the country that you're from? I would really be interested to know, because we were so excited about getting the green light from my school, and then right when my school said yes, New York said no way. So there goes that. So that's an update. I am still using Edgenuity. I think that my students are getting the hang of it now. They're adjusting, they're creating schedules for themselves. I've also been calling some of them individually to try to help create schedules for them, because it's just a completely different setup. In school, we created the system for them, right? But now that they're home, trying to figure out a schedule on your own is just completely different. So trying to assist in that way as much as possible, just so that they feel empowered and they can take control of their learning at home. So Edgenuity is still working. I really like the program. And lastly, Google Classroom, we are still using every single day. We still are posting, or I am still posting agendas, updates, also SEL check-ins. I will put these in the form of a class assignment, and then it'll just be due by maybe like Friday, right before 12 a.m. and just asking them like, what do they like? What do they don't like about this whole online learning? What do they prefer? What are some things that they still would like to see change? And so just getting feedback from them in a uniform way is really, really helpful as well. So those are the things when it comes to updates as far as the 3 programs. The next thing I want to update you guys on is what exactly my school has done to adjust the schedule. So in the beginning, I mentioned in the first video that we were still trying to follow class schedule as normal. And so we have 56-minute periods, and that is a lot of screen time, not just for students, but also for teachers. And I'm pretty sure admin got a lot of feedback from multiple people about how this just wasn't the most effective way to learn at home, especially considering everything else that's also happening in the world. If we were not experiencing like a global crisis, then I think it would be a lot harder to give that as like an excuse. But there's so much happening all around us, and then on top of it, putting this strain of screen time for about 7 hours a day, it's not sustainable. And we quickly found that out with all of the feedback. And so my school has adjusted hours. Now we're doing about 40-minute periods, so 15 minutes have been cut off. There's also a break in the day, which is so nice. So every single person will be on a break for about 35 minutes where we can go get a snack, go grab water, maybe go to the restroom, maybe sit outside for a little bit, and then come back in to engage in online learning again. So I'm really grateful that my school has adjusted the hours. So the school day has been cut shorter for about 2 hours shorter now. And also there's a break in the day. So I think that that's going to be really helpful, and it's going to just remove a lot of stress. Teachers will still be expected to kind of have like office hours until the end of the work week, but until the end of the work day. But for the most part, the actual like screen time is going to be limited, and I am so happy about that, not just for myself, but also for the kids, because that was a lot of the feedback in their SEL check-in. Like, it's just too much time on the computer, and I agreed with them. So I'm glad that my school is listening and that they're just really taking the approach of what is best for our learning community. Now, next thing I want to talk about are some of the challenges that I have been experiencing with online learning. The first challenge, without a doubt, is just the way that I have to communicate with students now. I have repeated myself so many times. I have literally copy and pasted the same email response from one student to another student. And so I think the repetition of how often I say something, my co-teacher and I were actually discussing this, how in the classroom, after you hear about 2 or 3 students that have the same question, you can literally stop the whole class and just say, hey, I need everyone's attention. Let me clarify this, right? But you can't really do that. You can on Google Classroom and post something on the stream, but even still, expecting for every single student to read it and understand it is completely different. So that's honestly been a challenge, just making sure that we over-explain, but now are we explaining too much where they're getting confused? And so one thing I've done, I've only done this once so far, but there was an essay assignment, and what I did was I just opened up my laptop and I videoed myself verbally explaining the directions, what it is that I expected, and then also I created a supplemental document that kind of gave them a guideline for what I want for their outline, examples of what the intro should have, body, and also conclusion. And then I did a voiceover while I was going through the document and showing them piece by piece. So that's one way where we are allowed to still like video ourselves and post it on Google Classroom so that they can see it. And that's just the only thing that I've been able to do so far. And then also just calling students. I've been calling home so often, just be like, hey, can we get on the phone? Let me explain this to you, because through email, it's really choppy and things can get lost in translation. So that's definitely one struggle that I've been having is communication. Second thing is making sure that there is still some type of student engagement and it's still feeling like a positive learning environment. Like, I don't really feel like it feels like a classroom, and it's really sad. And yes, we can post things on the stream and have them respond, but it's just not the same, right? It's not the same as seeing them in person, them feeding off of each other. And now that Zoom is not available, which is what I was really banking on to kind of create that environment, now we don't have that opportunity. I really don't know how to do that. Of course, through the stream, I'll say things like, I'm so proud of you guys, you're working so hard, or I'll post memes, but it's not the same. Like, it doesn't feel the same to me. And I also don't know if I'm just being selfish, like if I just wanted to feel that way, but if they don't really care, I don't know. So also, pause again, comment below, like what are some things that you guys have been doing to kind of like create that environment where it still feels like a classroom, where it still feels like everyone is engaging and communicating, and just that it's more than just you send an email, I respond, I send an email, you respond. Like, how are you doing that? Because I'm struggling with it, and that's the part that's really making me like sad, if I'm being honest. And my last issue that I'm starting to experience, students are, the best way to put this, their work is becoming inconsistent. And it's also students that I did not experience this with in the classroom. And so I do think that there are multiple reasons for this. Of course, they are home. They probably have other siblings. Maybe their parents are also working from home. There's a million distractions. Or they're probably just like, it is what it is. I'm over it. I'm tired of doing this. I don't want to do it anymore. I 100% get it. I am totally like sympathetic to what is happening. But I'm also really concerned because we are grading students, and I do have seniors, and their graduation is still dependent on whether they can pass my class because it is required for graduation. So I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out for them and for myself. And so I've had to email so many parents. I've had to email so many students. I've had to call any way possible to contact home so that I can inform parents on what is happening. And that is what's concerning me, because it's only week 2 and I see a decline in work ethic and also just completing work as a whole. And so that's one of the biggest struggles. Again, in the classroom, it was so easy to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, why haven't you handed this in? Like, maybe you should come up for lunch. Let's talk about this. I can give you the extra time. But you can't do that, right? So it's throwing off the whole approach on how to approach students that are struggling academically, or maybe are just becoming apathetic and just kind of over the whole thing. So those are the 3 things that I've been having difficulty with, that are starting to like come up on the horizon, that I've began to notice. And again, it's only week 2. Okay, last thing, New York State / New York City changes. So the first thing is no spring break. So I know a lot of people are probably like, you should be lucky that you're even working. But I think everyone just needs a reboot right now. And again, when you call a lot of homes, there's a lot of kids who are sick. There's a lot of parents or family members who are sick, even family members who have passed away because of this virus. And so I think, and even the things that are happening in like our own personal lives. And I think that having a break would have been good for everyone's mental health. Maybe not every single person. I know that some people like school because it provides a distraction from everything else that's happening. But I can only speak personally. It would have been nice to get some days off. And so we will not have like the whole week and a half, which was a really long time, but we do get a couple of days because of Good Friday and also Easter. But then school starts up again on Monday the 13th. So that's a big change. New York is not getting spring break. New York State, I know that for sure. And they have also been very honest with why. They just want to make sure that people are staying indoors. Teachers have to be home grading. Students have to be home doing work. It's just to encourage and enforce social distancing as best as possible. And again, there's over 120,000, maybe more cases in New York City right now. And it is a very small number compared to the 8.6 that live just in the 5 boroughs, 8.6 million. But I'm sure there's so many people that still haven't even been tested and just have been like writing things out at home. So I totally understand why, and I agree with why the decision was made. It's just obviously my own personal like selfish self just being like, dang, I really just need like a break. But it is what it is. We're gonna start again on Monday and we're gonna go. So that's the first change. No spring break for New York State. The second thing was obviously the Zoom. I mentioned that earlier in the video already. So no Zoom is allowed for any New York schools. It's just not gonna happen. And another update, this is kind of an older one, but I don't know how it is in other states, but every school is required to have 180 school days And so that was removed. You do not need 180 school days to like keep the school in good standings with the state and all these laws and all these rules. And so that's one thing that they changed, rightfully so. We had already missed a week, and then starting remote learning the week after. So that was one thing that was removed. The most recent update, which is what every, I think, New York City teacher or New York State teacher was holding their breath for, was statewide exams. Regents exams specifically if you are teaching 9 through 12. So for anyone that is not from New York, just really quickly, our students in different grades have to take different state exams, Regents exams, that are required for graduation. Now, there are some that students can take to give them like an advanced Regents diploma, but there are still exams that are required for graduation, and it's not just English and math. We have them in every subject area. So in the 10th grade, they have to take an English Regents. In the 10th grade, they have to take global history Regents. In 11th grade, I think also in 10th grade, they have to do living environment. In 11th grade, they have a US history Regents. There's a bunch of algebra Regents and geometry Regents and earth science and living environment. There's just so many different tests. And we also have a lot of students that are in jeopardy of graduation, a lot of seniors, because they haven't been able to pass the Regents exams. So everyone was kind of just holding their breath, like, what is the state going to do? It's nearly impossible to prep students for an exam. And now that you remove Zoom, how is this going to happen? Well, it's not going to happen. So they made an announcement yesterday that there will be no Regents exams statewide. It also trickles down into like students who are in the 7th grade, but I'm speaking specifically for high school because that's what I read. And I can also link the New York State ED website so that you guys can read it yourselves. But no Regents exams are required for graduation. That is the ones that were supposed to be administered in June. So this is really great news, not just for students, but also for teachers, because that was adding so much stress on so many of the teachers that were in my school. And so I'm really glad to hear that. So what they've decided is that if a student is enrolled in the course that was preparing them for that Regents, as long as they pass the course, they're eligible for graduation. Same thing with seniors who just needed that Regents to graduate. If they were already enrolled in the course that was prepping them for that Regents exam and they passed the course, they are eligible to graduate. So something good that happened here for a lot of our students. And also now we can kind of like breathe easy, and now it's just about learning. Like, we're not learning to a test, we're just learning, which just allows everyone to take a really big sigh of relief, which is awesome. And that's pretty much it. So those are all of the updates as far as New York State, New York City, the ones that I know. I'm sure there are a bunch more, but these are the ones that have been really relevant to me and also my school. Also the updates on the programs that I've been using, and also like my struggles with remote learning. So that's pretty much it. Please don't forget to respond how you have created an engaging environment through remote learning. And I will see you guys in the next video.